Alright guys, welcome back. We're back at Tomboy Official. Today I'm not too prepared to talk about this topic, but we're gonna be talking about crushes because, crushes are weird. It's always it can be a little odd. And if you're hearing this, is probably maybe the beginning of a new week. I don't know when I'm actually going to post this, but I'm thinking Mondays, maybe Sundays. I don't know. I'm trying to put them out and schedule them to post. So we'll see what I actually end up doing. So yeah. Because I'm recording these back to back, and I'm off work today, and I've had some other days off, and I'm kind of just recording because I'm free. A lot of these recordings, they're not. One of them had like a really, really long intro. The one I did about baby gays. But all these other ones are going to be recorded directly after that, so I don't really have too many updates because I just said them all. But I guess the biggest update would be that I'm going to be coming out with an OnlyFans. I'm going to be posting other content on there that I don't think I can just easily post up on here because I don't want things to get taken down or for it to fall into the hands of the wrong audience. I know that people who are younger are still interested in sexuality and those sorts of topics. But depending I don't know what's considered explicit, but I guess if it gets to be a little less than just educational explanations of things and social explanations of things, kind of lecture style, then it becomes, like if it's entertainment related, I feel like it becomes what's considered adult content. I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of the impression I get. Like, you can talk about sex, you can talk about sex toys, sexuality, anything like that, sexual identities from an educational perspective, talking about terminology and talking about cultural differences and, just educating people about different aspects of communities and things like that. But the second it becomes just entertainment value for, I guess for pleasure related, like if you're reading or watching or listening to something and it's not just for education, but it's to kind of tap into that entertainment aspect or watching it for some sort of pleasure to some extent, then I feel like it's considered adult content at that time. And so I know that people who are underage watch and listen to and read all kinds of things. I did when I was young. And now that it's more available, I'm sure other people do too. But I'm trying to build this podcast, and I really don't want it to get completely canceled because it's already hard enough providing LGBT content and content for minority groups and genderqueer, gender binary, non-binary, related content, trans topics, things like that, and then trying to kind of stay afloat. So I decided that, instead of posting a bunch of explicit types of, not personal, but fictional stories and things like that, linking them on the podcast, I'll just open up an OnlyFans, and that will be what kind of weeds people out as far as their age ranges. And I think that people who are younger should still have proper sexual education. I don't think that they should have to learn about like internal body organs only and be stuck with that, kind of like how a lot of us in my generation, as we're called elder millennials, a lot of us, how we were taught about human sexuality from a very heteronormative perspective. A lot of us who went to religious schools, or just during the political climate, there was no real open conversation in society too much about like queer topics and gay stuff, LGBT, nothing. I don't know how old I even was when I heard LGBT. I don't remember. It's probably in college. I hadn't even like heard that. I didn't even know that like a rainbow flag represented anything. I know it represents like unity, peace. Like in Europe, you see them around a lot. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's like a gay establishment, but around here, when you see a rainbow flag, it's kind of like gay owned, gay friendly. We know that gays come here. We don't mind gays coming here. We're an ally environment, if not already an LGBT owned business or something along those lines. Something a little more open-minded, but yeah, I don't want to exclude people, so I'm still going to provide this content that I'm always talking about, but I'll put more entertainment related, like, because I do like to write short stories and stuff, very gay short stories, and sometimes they've got some explicit content to them. So there's that that I don't think I can share on this channel, unfortunately. So you'll be able to find it on OnlyFans, but I'm gonna wait until I get enough content to post on OnlyFans, and then I'll post the links in the descriptions. And so at this moment, it may not be in the description yet. I'm not even gonna say the title yet of the OnlyFans, because there's nothing on it. There's an account that's open, otherwise there's no content posted at all, so I'm gonna wait to post it. But I was just kind of thinking, like, what do I wish was out there? What do I wish I saw out there? Something that I don't see much of. I mean, up until recently, and they're usually people about my age, like masculine, female, artists, content creators, and people of color, just different types of gender presentations and different gender identities of people. A lot of it's on YouTube. So that's cool, because you can just easily search that. But, so is that all I had to say? That's all I had to say. But yeah, I was just saying, I want to post stuff that I feel like I have a hard time finding. And I notice for people who are, I say this all the time though, I use words like queer, genderqueer, LGBT. It's kind of like, to me, it's kind of interchangeable language. I know that different people identify in their own ways. If I say genderqueer, there are trans people, there are androgynous presenting people, there are masculine, feminine presenting people, there are gender non-binary people, there are people who have a binary gender identity. Some people are cisgender, some people are transgender or non-gendered, or there are multiple ways of expressing gender. And instead of saying all of that and other things that I already didn't even say yet, I usually just say genderqueer, or LGBT. And I know that not all the time when someone has a gender presentation that's a certain way, it doesn't necessarily have anything at all to do with a person's sexuality, with their sexual identity. Those two things are completely separate things. But I feel like the majority of where I see the gender related differences tends to be in the LGBT plus community. But I know it's not always that way. You can still be genderqueer, you can still be non-binary and be, a straight person, you're just not a cis person. But I feel like it's hard to kind of tease out a lot of different things. So, I mean, this is for everybody. I think even if straight cis people listen on here, that's totally cool. I've got no issue with them. I've got no issue with it. I have a lot of straight cis allies. I think they're awesome, good friends, good family. So I'm not like knocking them or trying to exclude them or anything. It's just, if you guys want to learn about, the dating scenes or crushes or, how to have sex with people and stuff like that, like it's easy to find because it's everywhere, and you just buy any book in the mainstream or any video in the mainstream and you'll find it. And the rest of us who don't fit into that straight cis kind of box realm, we have to kind of go outside to search for things. So that's kind of what I do more of here, is kind of expand on what I notice is kind of out there or what I was growing up with, and just put out other information that, isn't maybe always just available from like a textbook. Like if you're a student and you're listening to this kind of like after school or something, it's like, depending on how your school is, your teachers probably aren't talking about these topics. And if they are, good for them, good for you too, that you have teachers that kind of are able to and allowed to talk about these things. But I mean, I even had gay teachers growing up, and I didn't even know they were gay till I was like in college. And because I was still involved with the church, hung out with them, or they came through town when I was visiting someone else in Northern California, and then they were, talking about their wife and, their relationships and stuff. But it never came up in school. It never came up at all. This was just a teacher that I thought was maybe like a tomboy or something. I don't know what I thought about her, but she was more masculine presenting. She was probably in her 20s back then and was super cool. And I remember when I was like, she taught us how to bake pies. I remember that. We used to make pies and sell them for like $20, and those were such good pies. They were so good. And I remember once talking about having a crush on this guy that was like probably 3-4 grades ahead of me. I was probably in like 7th grade or 6th grade in her class, and I think he was like a 10th grader or something. And just because he was a black guy, I was like talking to some other girl that was in my class, and I was like, yeah, I have a crush on him, like whatever. And I kind of saw that teacher kind of looking at me, and I was like, she was probably like, yeah, you're gay, like you don't have a crush on him, like whatever. But I heard her I kind of noticed she was kind of like listening to the conversation, which was kind of funny. Anyways, though, guys, I want to get into this topic, talking about crushes. Usually I think I talk about them from, I don't know how I usually talk about this. I've recorded other episodes about crushes, but again, for us non-straight or non-cisgender people, crushes get complicated, guys. It can be hard, but I don't always want to talk about the difficult, challenging kind of stuff. It's not all negative. I think the hardest part, as with most things, the hardest part about a crush, just like the hardest part of dealing with, overcoming like a problem or like anything like that, is we all know what to do, right? It's not like when you have a crush, you don't know that, hey, if I confront the crush and tell them how I feel and try to see how they feel, then I'll be able to like that's just, that's as easy as it is, right? But the reason why we don't do that is because we feel awkward about it, we feel uncertain about it. it's hard to trust, like, if the other person's gonna reciprocate or make us feel humiliated or bad or out us, or it's not that we don't know what to do, it's just that, you know, making the decision to actually open that conversation is, you know, it puts a person in a vulnerable position. Nobody wants, I think like, for example, for myself, one reason why I notice I don't bring up certain things is because a lot of times people's reactions make it hard for me to want to tell them things or talk to them. So, for example, I have a friend who, whenever I, you know, tell her something that's kind of serious or whatever, she kind of is like, oh, really? Oh, you know, like, kind of like, really, like, I don't know what the word is, like, just her expression, how she's so overly, sometimes maybe overly eager to talk about, you know, overly eager to kind of talk about, you know, personal topics, or how she's so easily excitable about them. Like, she gets really, like, excited about people, like, sharing personal things with her. Just kind of her reactions are kind of like, dude, I'm like, whoa, like, calm down, you know. Like, it kind of makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So I know when people are like that, it's kind of hard. Or for myself also, if I'm out somewhere and I'm kind of like in a crowd, or like at a club or bar or somewhere that's like noisy, or not like a like private environment, it's kind of too public, or like you have to talk louder than you would normally. I'm a quieter person, so I notice when it's like personal topics, I don't tend to talk about them a lot at bars and clubs. So that gets hard for me, because a lot of times when I meet somebody or when I'm with my friends, we're at a bar or a club, and so it's like I want to talk to them, I want to like be with them and like be involved, but it's like hard for me to be like really open, because it's like some things I don't want to be talking about screaming over the music, you know. I kind of want to talk about it so that I know that just they heard it, not everybody, the DJ and the bartenders and the waiter, all like overhearing me talking about all my personal life. Even if I don't know the people, even if I'm not gonna come across those people again, it's just kind of uncomfortable for me. So those things, I mean, I'm not even specifically even talking about crushes there, like approaching a crush or something, but just in general, when I talk to people and there's something kind of more serious that I want to talk about, that's something I notice about myself, is that I prefer those types of environments. I prefer people who are good at listening and open-minded, who don't really judge or like tell me what to do, who kind of understand things and don't try to, especially if it's like an LGBT type topic, I don't tend to like it when people kind of make it into their own weird like sexual fetish kind of thing. Like, I know that people have them, I'm not like knocking that people have fetishes, but one really annoying one for me is when, and not all straight males are like this, I only really know one who does this, that's like, whenever I bring up anything about like dating or women or anything like that, he starts talking about like like how he wants to have a threesome with like lesbians or something, you know. It's kind of stuff like that I'm like, okay, I know, I get that that's what you want, but I'm trying to tell you that I'm like trying to talk to you about this situation with like a woman that I met that maybe I'm trying to date or something like that. Like, he's just not really able to really have those conversations. Like, he's not a person who's easy to talk to about stuff. So if I'm really in like a vulnerable headspace, I really don't talk to him about things. If I just want to like screw around and like play with ideas and just talk about like women's boobs and asses or something, he's kind of the person you talk to like that. He's not really the person that you kind of talk to about like more serious like stuff, you know. So that's kind of something I noticed. I think it helps with crushes in general to just kind of know what you prefer. So if you kind of know socially what you prefer, just in general, when you're approaching people, and if you feel like, you know, having a crush puts you in a vulnerable position, or you feel kind of more vulnerable because you have a crush, especially if they don't know, or if you're not, you know, if you're LGBT and you aren't really out, or you are out and you're not really able to approach the person easily. Like, I mean, I would say the most inconvenient places, in my opinion, to develop a crush, and I know it's not on purpose, it's not like you're like, I'm gonna have a crush on this person. They just sneak up on us, right? Like, somebody just sometimes grows on you and you just develop an interest in them. Or sometimes it's just like at first sight, you're like, oh, they're really hot, I really like the way they look, they're sexy, kind of thing. So however the crush develops, I really usually don't prefer it to be through like work or school or any professional setting, because I really like my professional boundaries to be pretty strict. But I know it's not something that can be controlled too much. I mean, like, yeah, you can control how you react and stuff, but like, you can't like force yourself not to have a crush on somebody. If you do like them, you just like them. What are you gonna do? But I like when there aren't a lot of boundaries that might be crossed. And I think it is helpful to have like a trusting friendship, but sometimes it can be really, really hard if you have a trusting friendship. It can be hard to maybe try to talk to somebody about how that might look, especially when, you know, you get along good, you know, you have a good relationship, you know, that there's the trust there, you know, that, you know, you have similar values, you like one another a lot, you share a lot of, you know, intimate times. So I would say a couple approaches that make it easy for me, and then this isn't the same for everybody, but a couple approaches that have made things easier for me, either when people approach me this way, or this is kind of how I tend to approach things with people, but it's not always the way that I do things, or always the way that it's come up. So the first one would be kind of, I mean, I've never had something that was like a crush outside of a friendship. It's always been like, okay, like, we get to know each other, feel each other out, and then we kind of notice, okay, I have some kind of feelings for you. So one way, and I've talked about this maybe before, one way to approach it, for myself anyways, is like, if I'm interested in somebody and just kind of focusing with them on like the friendship, kind of reflecting on our friendship, that kind of, sorry, we have neighborhood kids that just keep running around the block and they're always playing. Goodness, sorry about that. Yeah, I have my windows open and there's like neighborhood kids running around because they're out of school. It's actually good to see, you know, kids being active and outside and having fun in the sun, and like, that's a healthy thing. They're like the only kids in the whole neighborhood that I see, and I'm sure there's so many more kids, but they never come outside. So it's kind of cool to see those kids out on scooters and stuff. It kind of reminds me when I was like really young and like running around with like super soaker water guns with my friends and like playing with guns with them and stuff, and video games. When they started coming in, that's when we started hanging out inside more, or on like rainy days with board games. But I mean, that's how old I am. I was there when Nintendo became popular, and the Super Nintendo and all that. I feel like all the other systems before that didn't really get to like the addictive aspect. The addictive aspect that was there. But anyways, yeah, I would say, reflecting on the friendship kind of can help, kind of bringing it up like, okay, like, hey, I know we've been getting along for a long time, we've known each other a long time, and like, if you like appreciate their friendship or enjoy, the time you spend together, and you really value the relationship and things like that, just kind of letting the other person know that. I mean, it can be a little awkward too. I mean, it also kind of helps to kind of, even before that, like preface it with, are you in a place where you can like talk about, like, can we talk about this? Like, is it okay to like open this conversation? Or talking generally about dating, or, opening those discussions of like if they're dating someone, or what kind of, how they date, or if they go on dating apps and that kind of thing, or whatever, and then maybe you can kind of ease into it a little bit, like talking about your views on the friendship that you have together, and kind of going a little further, talking about how you feel about the friendship, and how you feel about, maybe dating in general, and how you kind of feel about like that friendship, if you guys either, like, it can be a conversation or you just expressing yourself. So it kind of depends how you and your friend talk to each other. Do they usually say, hey, I want to talk to you about something? Or do you usually say, hey, I want to talk to you about something, I've had something on my mind, on my heart, whatever, like, or do you just both talk? If you feel more comfortable kind of asking them more questions. So like, that's come up too, where it's been like, just want to check in and see how you feel about our friendship, because I know we get along good, and we vibe on a lot of different things. We have a lot of things in common, and on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, we kind of have a lot of trust and understanding. Like, how do you feel about the way our friendship is, about the way things are? Like, would you ever want to be more than friends? Do you currently want to be more than friends? Did you ever want to take it to a different type of friendship, a different level of, I don't know if the word romantic is necessarily, but like a different type of intimate relationship where, it's kind of more like a different level of friendship, a different aspect of friendship. I mean, level implies that like it's better. I mean, I don't really think that if you have an intimate relationship with somebody, either physically intimate or just like vulnerably intimate or emotionally intimate, or but usually people phrase it as the next level, like a different level or next level of our friendship. It doesn't necessarily mean that the current friendship isn't good enough, but I don't really like that phrasing. I mean, I've used it before because I don't know really how else to say it, but I mean, you want to probably say things in a way that people understand, and just naturally the way you talk, and there can be a lot of like kind of naturally talking around something. I mean, I've had people ask me out before where literally I would have said yes in another setting, and I literally said no because I was kind of like caught off guard and like really embarrassed. Like, I probably mentioned it before, but like there was when I was like in probably like 7th grade or something, we used to have banquets because the denomination I was, the school that I was at was part of a Christian denomination that didn't believe in dancing at all. So we didn't have dances because they weren't supposed to dance. So we had banquets. So there were like formal sit down food banquets with like a magician or some kind of live music entertainment or something that you're like viewing, watching, comedians, stuff like that. No alcohol, nothing like that. So we we kind of all were like oh man, we were all like I don't know what I was talking about. I'm sorry. I do that a lot, guys. I kind of like totally spaced out there. But oh yeah, so yeah, I was with some other kids and we were all, it was a guy. We used to play Magic the Gathering together and I actually liked hanging out with him. But my mom never would let me go over to his house, and so I only saw him at school. And we were on some class trip to the beach or something like that. I remember we were all kind of walking down the pier, maybe Santa Monica Pier or something like that. And he was kind of asking me a lot of questions that he knew I would say no to, like, I don't know, but for example, like, would you ever eat a booger? Would you ever like give away $100? Or $1,000 to like a drug addict? Like, would you ever, like things that are like, okay, I'm clearly gonna say no to these. And me and him were walking in front, and then there was a group of people, of other friends, like all behind us. And so I remember I was saying like hell no to every question that he asked, because he was kind of being obnoxious, and he was like hell no, hell no, hell no. Like that's what I was saying. Like, he was asking me questions, and at that time I was kind of like not too in tune with my emotions. I was kind of more kind of rough around the edges, a little too direct, a little just like, I'd be like cursing and swearing and like, just how it is when you go to like a Christian really uptight kind of school. You kind of would rather be kind of like a little bit rebellious just because it brings that out of you as a teen. It's just kind of like, I want to like not follow the rules when nobody's looking. And we weren't even really allowed to say things like hell no, but I was saying that, and he was kind of asking me, and I was like, hell no, and like asking me all these like questions, like question after question. But he would do that. He'd be a little obnoxious and then whatever. And then he was just like, would you go with me to the banquet? And I was like, hell no. And I wasn't even listening to him at this point. I was just saying like hell no. And it just came out because he'd probably asked me like maybe 5 questions, maybe 20 questions. I don't remember. It was a lot of questions where I was just saying hell no, hell no. And then I was kind of like, oh, like I can't. I don't know if I said like I'm not allowed or like whatever. What I would have liked to say now is that, we can go out somewhere else, or we can plan to do some other thing or whatever. But I did kind of regret that I didn't really approach that okay. I was just like, hell no. And then like the people who were behind me, I know they kind of heard too. But he kind of had an interest in me, and I wasn't like not interested in him. And it's not that I wouldn't go out with him, I just didn't have like the kind of social awareness about that kind of thing. I remember for one of his birthdays, I gave him a little dollar bill or something with a little cutout of my face on it. I didn't like not like him. I mean, I just never, came full circle back around to that situation or like topic at all. I wasn't very good at like being emotionally vulnerable and those types of topics coming up. And I wasn't used to being really like approached by people for that kind of stuff. I'm noticing now that there were probably quite a few people that probably had some crushes on me that I just never, because like I was never really like a very femme presenting female, and being at like a really kind of very conservative, uptight Christian school and environment in general, I just assumed that, if I don't look really femme and I'm not using makeup and all that, guys don't like me and I can't date girls, so I'm just not dating anybody. Like, I wasn't really dating anybody until probably like college. I mean, I've had crushes before, like in high school. I remember like having a crush on some guy too, and somebody calling me out in like the classroom saying like, you have a crush on him, and I made some weird comment like he has a crush on you or something like that. Like, it was some kind of like insult, and then like they were like, oh, he was always like super nice to me, and I went from a school where I was kind of like not somebody, but like well known, knew everybody, was kind of established there. My folks were kind of involved with the school, friends with the principal. I didn't get like special treatment or anything, but like I felt comfortable there. I wasn't like a new kid. And then I went to like a school of like, I went from like a class size of 10 students where everybody had all known each other for like years, friends of the families and stuff like that, to a school where I had a school of 2,000 other students that were all my own age, instead of a couple hundred to 100 something K through 10. There were like 100, 2,000, students between 4 grades, and my senior class had maybe 400 something students in it. So that was a big change in my life. And I was only at that school for 2 years, so I wasn't, I was still established with my friends from my other school because we had bands together and stuff. And we never really talked much about my dating interests. It was always my other friends kind of talking about like theirs. And there was kind of a point where I kind of started noticing like, okay, they're developing crushes on these type of people and going out on dates with these types of people, and asking people out and stuff. And I'd say I was pretty behind with that kind of stuff. Like, I didn't really start asking people out probably till I was in like college, but I remember just like observing and seeing my friends, and there were some things that happened. Like, one of my friends, kind of, I don't know if he lost his virginity or was like hooking up with this one other person, and then some of the gossipy kind of high school girls, like one of the gossipy ones was like, oh, he they were like hooking up, and like he thinks that they're like boyfriend girlfriend in a relationship, but like she says they're not. And it was kind of, I would always hear about every side because I would hang out with the guys, I would hang out with the girls, like I'd hang out with everybody. So there was kind of that, and I think that's kind of one of the worst kind of settings, the worst kind of situations that can happen is like when you trust somebody with either, if you're sleeping together, or if you have a crush on them, or if you're talking to them, and then they go blabbing to other people about like, oh, this person has a crush on me, or oh, this person likes me, or oh, this person, we hooked up or whatever. Like, I think that's kind of everybody's worst case scenario, worst case, that they don't want to have that happen to them, that they open up to somebody and that they're, vulnerable, and then somebody else just kind of crushes everything. And I think that's why they're called crushes, because you can get crushed pretty hard because you're kind of in a vulnerable situation. You kind of have these kind of fuzzy, warm, kind of these tender feelings for some other person. You don't really know how they feel a lot of the time. a lot of times it can really be like this unspoken thing too, and it's hard to really know, like, do I address this? Do I not address it? Are they truthfully into me? Are they not into me? Are we, together? Are we in a relationship? Are we not? Are we, like, there's a lot of things that we can all kind of notice kind of comes out. And so, yeah, I think it can be pretty hard to approach kind of somebody who you might be interested in or might have an interest in. Like, I think I've been approached about it more than I've probably approached other people. There aren't that many people that I've been telling them how I feel. I also don't crush very easily or very often on people. Like, there are a few people I've crushed on that I know kind of friend zoned me. And then there were people that I thought friend zoned me and then came out later and were kind of like, I always wondered what it would be like if we would have dated kind of thing. So it's like, okay, like, I thought you friend zoned me, so I don't really know, because we didn't really talk about it. Or someone who's been like, oh yeah, I always tell my friends, about these places, and like, I always take my friends here, or this is a place I show to all my friends, something like that. That's kind of like, to me, that's like, oh, I get it, we're friends, okay. But I mean, that's always a good start. And I mean, I've had some pretty interesting crushes from people I've met online that it just kind of didn't work out. But I've been ghosted. I've been just approached for like the hookups. I've been ignored. I don't think I've had too many like terrible experiences though, where it's been like I was truly invested and involved with this person, and then they just that didn't work out. I mean, I've definitely had that with friendships where I was like devastated at like a close friend moving. I get really deep friendships with people a lot of times, and when they move, it's like when they move to a place, like I have a friend who moved to North Carolina, a friend who moved to Vegas. It's kind of like, oh man, I wish they wouldn't have moved. Like, it's kind of like heart crushing, kind of like, oh, they moved, like I didn't want them to move, like I enjoy seeing you in person regularly, and like just having discussions and hanging out and just shooting the shit and like going and doing activities together and spending time together and stuff. Like, I really like that. So there's all that. But I don't really know. I don't really know. Honestly, sorry. My head is like, I was totally thinking about something else just now. yeah, about a proposition. I kind of got propositioned, and I'm kind of trying to figure out if it's something I'm interested in or not. It's not even a crush. It's not even an interest in this person. I was trying to talk to one of my friends about it too, but he was maybe not the person to talk to about this. And I was just like, yeah, would you ever like hook up with somebody that you don't really find too physically like attractive, but like you could kind of do it just because they're willing, like that kind of thing. Like, I don't know if that's called desperation. I don't know, but I mean, whatever. Like, I don't really care. But I don't see anything wrong with making consensual decisions together with people. Really, I mean, who cares? Ultimately, like, who cares? But I mean, ideally, you'd probably want to be attracted to a person. It helps. But sometimes it's like, even if you're not physically attracted, if you've never met, you're not physically attractive, and you try to hook up, like, you can have a crush that's just like a physical related, like, I find them attractive, but you might not even like know this person yet. Like, there's nothing about their personality other than like, oh, they're nice to me, they say hi, they're cute, I have a crush on them. If they approached you for like a, not even a friend with benefits, but just like a hookup situation, how would you approach it? I mean, I think it's different person to person, and it's different any type of person that would approach. So things are gonna vary. But yeah, it puts things, it's hard to be in like a vulnerable position when you really like somebody. It's hard to open those conversations, especially when you're friends. I always know I'm like, I'd rather not lose a friend by them feeling too awkward about how I feel about them. So usually that's what keeps me from being open about it. That and so that keeps me from bringing up the conversation, as well as like not really wanting to be in an emotionally vulnerable kind of position. So I guess that's mostly what I'd have to say about crushes. Is, I mean, you don't always have to approach it. I mean, one of my friends was asking me about like how to get over a crush. I don't really know that exactly. I can say what worked for me was, I had a crush who, she started dating some other female, and I met her girlfriend, because me and her were like friends. I met her girlfriend. I talked to her girlfriend a lot. Me and her girlfriend have a lot in common and can hang out and stuff. But then I realized, early on, I mean, I realized this, like, at first I was kind of sad, like, like, when I heard that my crush was kind of not single, I was like, oh, that's kind of rough. And then when I heard that my crush was like not single, plus like a little, yeah, like, what am I trying to say? Sorry, my head's somewhere else, guys. When I heard that my crush was not single and was like, I'm trying to think of what happened. So I heard that they weren't single. I met their girlfriend, and we all still were hanging out and stuff. One thing that kind of helped me get over things was kind of noticing how she was with her girlfriend, what she's interested in, what attracted her to her girlfriend, what her girlfriend is like, what kind of personality she likes to be with, what kind of future and values, and kind of how they are in public and stuff like that. Like, I'm not like dissing them about it. Like, I love the way they are together. It's so adorable, and like I'm not like wanting to be involved with this person anymore, but there was a crush there for sure. And then I don't know. Just, it was mostly like when I was able to kind of realize what my crush was into, what they were interested in, what turns them on, how they like to be, like public displays of affection, certain stuff like that. There's certain stuff that, like, okay, I'm not as outgoing as what she's attracted to. I'm not, I don't look like physically what she's attracted to. I don't, gravitate towards the same lifestyle, or, I'm not, there's a lot of things that I'm not, like, not in a negative way, but just I'm naturally not that way. Like, for me to be someone that my crush was attracted to, I'd have to be this completely different person, and that kind of helped me to get over having a crush on them, because I was like, well, we're not really right for each other. Like, in my eyes, I was like, okay, like, I liked how she was and everything. I don't want to go into too many details about a lot of stuff, but I mean, basically, I had a crush on her because she kind of met a lot of those checkbox criteria that I was kind of looking for, or thought I was looking for. But then when I noticed what she was looking for, because that's what she found in her girlfriend, like, when I noticed that what she was looking for, I started realizing she's not looking for somebody who's like me. And so I kind of eventually, I don't think it was even slowly, it was pretty quickly, I got over her, because I was like, well, I'm not like that, I'm not that way, I don't work that type of job, I'm not outgoing like that, I don't, do certain things, there's a lot I just don't do. Yeah. So, yeah. So, I think that's mostly all that I can think of. Then when it comes to crushes, it's just kind of, it can be hard to feel out. They can be so, there's so much going on with them sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, this is like consuming so much of my energy and my focus and my time. It can be just pretty challenging to have to deal with that, honestly. Because it's not too fun. It's like a little fun. It's a little nice to have, like, that it's a little nice. Um, yeah, I don't really think I have anything really else to say. My head's like totally slowing down on this, so that's kind of the perspective that I take on this kind of stuff is, you know, trying to feel yourself out and the other person, see how you'd fit together. And, you know, I know people who jump in really quick. I used to have a client that, you know, would meet somebody and immediately they'd want to be involved. But they didn't really have the trust there, and they ended up just getting in any kind of relationship, and they weren't able to be kind of like emotionally vulnerable. So whenever there were conversations that they needed to have, they weren't able to have those conversations comfortably, because they were just jumping into things like, oh, you look good, I want to be with you, and then immediately they become so attached and like needing this person, and it's like nothing's really developed. And I remember once that same client asking me, like, around the Valentine's Day time, like, oh, do you have, like, a date for Valentine's? And they were asking me, like, a girl or a guy, or, like, you know, like, I think a lot of my clients kind of knew that, like, I'm not straight, and it's fine. And I was just kind of like, no, like, I kind of met somebody, but where, you know, it's too early to be like, I think I'd met somebody maybe like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or so before, and just barely had gone out on maybe like 3 dates or so, but had been talking maybe for like a week before that or something. So it was really early, and it was like slow going. And so I remember the client asking me, like, oh, do you have like a girlfriend or a boyfriend or somebody, you know? And I was like, no, I'm pretty much single, but like I'm kind of like dating somebody, kind of. And then the client was like, oh, so what you mean is that you're dating somebody, but it's not really going the way you want it to go. And I was kind of like, no, it's just too early. Like, it's too early to just be like asking somebody to be like a Valentine's date, like, when I barely even know if we're even, like, we're not even in a relationship. We're just kind of still like early dating, trying to like develop trust and friendship and things like that. Like, it wasn't even like at a stage where I would be doing anything other than like asking them out on like dates, or like going out on dates together and stuff. And the client was kind of like not able to really understand kind of that I was trying to say, like, it's not an appropriate time yet, you know? Like, sometimes, you know, I mean, if you want to jump into stuff, jump in, but I feel like there is, you know, a process of trying to feel things out first. Just the way I think about it is that if things come up, if there are, you know, tough situations, tough conversations, you want to be able to have those conversations. And if you don't trust each other, if you don't know how they like to communicate, if they don't know how to communicate with you, it's going to be really extra challenging just to do those basic things. And you'll be trying to figure that out during the relationship the whole time. But then again, I mean, there's no like wrong way of doing it, but for me that would be like not right for my own method. But just because it's not best for me doesn't mean it's not okay for other people. But that was just like an example I was giving, though. But yeah, it can be tough though. Hang in there. Hang in there. Like, there's somebody out there for everybody. You might think maybe that you're unattractive. That's something common. It's kind of interesting, so interesting, how many people don't find themselves attractive and think other people don't either, when they're like really attractive people. So yeah, so just hang in there, think about it some, and good luck with everything, and I'll talk to you guys later.